Mistry, the Ouster and the Untold story on the raging boardroom battle between Tata Sons and Cyrus Mistry on the other hand, taking it straight to yet another mega ET Now exclusive that we are bringing for you at this hour. Joining me now is my colleague Abhinav Das, who's been on top of every development, every twist and turn on that big boardroom battle, one that has really shaken up Indian industry and has actually got global investors a worried lot as well. This is a story that we're bringing to you exclusively right here at ET Now. Cyrus Mistry was prepared with a code of conduct for the same board meeting where he actually got ousted. Abhinav Das is joining us to put it all in perspective and get us more details. Thanks very much, Abhi, for being with us. What was this entire code of conduct all about? What exactly did he want to table at that fateful board meeting on the 24th of October when he was actually ousted, actually shown the door?
Well, Supriya, we are given to understand that Cyrus Mistry had prepared a detailed governance note which was to be presented to the Tata Sons board meeting on the crucial 24th of October board meeting, the day he was sacked as chairman of Tata Sons. What we are given to understand is that the governance note very clearly looked to made sure that companies operate on an arm's length basis vis-a-vis Tata Trusts and Tata Sons. In fact, the note very clearly points out that there should not be any prescriptive role for Tata Sons, and all operating companies should be managing their day-to-day affairs independently. The board should be empowered to do so. We are given to understand that the note very clearly specifies that there should not be any overarching powers for Tata Sons, Tata Trusts. In fact, it sought to lay down clear roles for Tata Sons, the trusts and the independent directors. In fact, it goes on to say that the Tata Sons would provide the philosophy, overall vision. I mean, it should not extend to day-to-day running of the companies. In fact, if you look at the note in particular, it says that the individual companies must have complete autonomy as far as running the companies are concerned. In fact, the focus for Tata Sons should be on governance practices, should be on brand value. There shouldn't be any dictating of group strategy by Tata Sons. These are things we have seen glimpses of violations of these things that has happened over the last few days and that have come to the light. So what very clearly it seems to suggest that Cyrus Mistry was looking to empower his operating companies to make sure that Tata Sons trusts, they operate at an arm's length basis.
You know, Abhinav, it's very interesting you're putting out things because they almost seem to be suggesting that Cyrus Mistry wanted the old guard, the Tata Sons, the Tata Trust, who were interfering almost in day-to-day functioning to be the Margdarshak Mandal and not to be direct players. But the question really that comes to one's mind is, he was in the hot seat for almost 4 years. What compelled him to bring about this code of conduct? He must have been a worried man to actually put it before the board.
Absolutely. In fact, what we understand speaking to people who work closely with him is that over the years, Tata Sons and Trusts, they were having overarching powers. And what was the bigger worry here was that the roles of the two said, the operating companies and the trust and Tata Sons, the division was getting blurred. So in a way, there was very little that operating companies could do, and when Tata Sons executives were trying to have access to operations over to M&A activities by operating companies, and these are things which didn't go down well with Cyrus Mistry. In fact, what we are given to understand is that Cyrus Mistry very clearly told the Tata Sons directors that in case there are any queries, come to me, I will try and sort it out, I'll get the information, and all things should be routed through the chairman. But over the years, there were cases of violation of that. And that's precisely why Cyrus Mistry wanted to bring in this governance note. Unfortunately, it couldn't be tabled because before that, he got sacked by majority of the board members.
It's interesting you say all of that. We've got eminent guests joining us right here on ET Now with their views on this, Mr. R.S. Luna, Sandeep Parekh and Mohit Saraf. But gentlemen, urge you to wait on that because I still have one more leg of that story to be answered by Abhinava there. And Abhi, you almost seem to be suggesting here that functions were blurred between what was Tata Sons, what was Tata Trust and what were really the functioning management of group entities. But there must have been an immediate trigger for Cyrus to bring this to the board. He had after all been in the hot seat for almost 4 long years. Why did he not choose to do that then? So what was really that immediate trigger?
Supriya, the trigger could be the Welspun deal. I mean, what we are given to understand is the huge acquisition, the $1.5 billion acquisition of Welspun power assets. That's something that Tata Sons and Tata Trust members, they took an unusual interest in the matters. In fact, if you look at the note that Cyrus Mistry has written, he very clearly specified that he named Mr. Soonawala, who got into the structuring of the deal, who sat with the Tata Power members to figure out how the deal with Welspun could be structured. Now, what we are given to understand is that Cyrus Mistry and his team kept all the members of Tata Sons board, including Ratan Tata and Soonawala, informed about all the decisions that were being taken. And this is something which were ongoing. That's what we've been specifically told. But members like Soonawala, they did seek additional information. They got into structuring of the deal. And that's something that Tata Sons chairman was not very comfortable, which was Cyrus at that point in time.
Actually, it's quite interesting you say that because there are very huge corporate governance issues that come out of this. I mean, how can anybody know of stock sensitive information other than the fact that the board had not approved it and people outside of that board actually knew about it? So that raises a lot of concerns, and Economic Times and ET Now have been on top of that story. And this morning you did read in ET how SEBI is actually looking at possible breaches of insider trading norm. But Abhinava, stay with us and we're going to take this across to our guests to get you a 360-degree view of what is really happening, the inside story of that ouster and what was actually scripted to happen on the 24th of October and what ended up happening. Sandeep Parekh, let's begin with you. Do you smell a dead rat here, just like the rest of us do? I mean, this code of conduct was to be tabled on the 24th of October. Cyrus Mistry perhaps was sick of the interference that was coming in from Tata Sons and Tata Trust. He wanted group entities to be independent, but that wasn't to be.
Yes, seems quite unusual and quite a coincidence for it to happen on the same date. And I think it's just not a matter of corporate governance. I think there are two issues which are involved. One is corporate governance, which is kind of, that companies should be run in a particular manner, the processes, the accountability, the governance, etc. But we are looking at something much more serious, which is insider trading norms, and especially the 2013 version has become very strict in terms of sharing of information outside of the company, not just even within the company itself. You can share that information only on a need-to-know basis. So that law has become extremely strict, and we just saw over a month back SEBI order where the son of a promoter, himself a promoter who got access to inside information, was kind of reprimanded by SEBI. So I think the law is clear, the position of SEBI is clear on these cases. So there is no way Tata Sons could legally have got access to that information in the first place. And for shareholders of Tata Sons to get the information is kind of 2 levels away from what is legally permissible. So I think it's a serious malaise, and unfortunately most of corporate India behaves in the 1980s fashion in terms of sharing information across group companies as if they are one single juristic entity. I think so there's a lot of learning, and I think Cyrus was probably trying to bring on board new practices to say that this information cannot be shared. Again, what was in those presentation slides and all, we can only imagine, but I believe that certain extra information was there which was not in public domain.
Fair point indeed, and actually we are bringing out to you the code of conduct that Cyrus Mistry wanted to bring about in the 24th October meeting. But it's not just corporate governance, there are serious issues of insider trading norms, and like Sandeep Parekh pointed out there, Cyrus Mistry perhaps was trying to change 1980s to 2013 stock market norms, and which is why that code of conduct had to be tabled. Unfortunately, it could not be. But let's take this across to Mr. R.S. Luna. And Mr. Luna, do you agree with Sandeep Parekh there that this smacks of old world practice, group entities are not the same institution, and yet norms were being flouted there, and that's the change that Cyrus Mistry was perhaps trying to bring about.
Certainly, I think if you go by the company law as well as the SEBI regulations, there's no scope where a subsidiary company or group company can share the information with the holding company or any other company. So looking from that angle, I think any kind of unpublished price sensitive information coming from one company to another company is a violation of the insider trading regulations, is not only an issue of corporate governance, because the price sensitive information has to be handled very carefully. Even in the organization, it has to be handled on need to know basis. And when we say that this information is given to the holding company, I would say that both the companies, the listed entity as well as the holding company, passing on the information and the holding company receiving information, they both become liable under the insider trading regulations, because the only exceptions where you can say that they may not be held liable is that if the information is given for a legitimate purpose or for performing some duties or legal obligation. I don't see any kind of thing which can be justified when the information is flowing from a company to the holding company. So I think viewing from that angle, this is not only a corporate governance issue but also an issue of insider trading regulations, and I believe SEBI already has started looking into this matter, and in my view it's a matter which needs to be looked in carefully.
Sandeep, I mean, a group as respected as the Tatas should have had such governance norms already in place, isn't it? But my larger point is, I mean, had such a proposal been accepted, it would have definitely curtailed the power of Tata Sons, the power of the Tata Trust. Is it in a way responsible for Mistry's ouster? Because had this come about, things could have been very different from the way the Tata group was being operated.
So it's hard for me to sit here and draw causal connections, but as I said, it's quite a coincidence that on the day he was bringing in these practices which would have severed Tata Sons' ability to modify the behavior of the group companies, all the listed companies, he was ousted. So I mean, there is something to say for the coincidence, but again, it's not for me to draw causal connections like that. Because that'll be based on facts which I don't have.
Mohit, this whole idea of operating group companies vis-a-vis the Tata Sons and Trust at arm's length, this is a big concern that investors have. This is something that even the regulators are looking at. What do you think is amiss here? Because for a group as respected as the Tatas, this was supposed to be in place long time back, isn't it?
I'll tell you one thing. In my particular view, I think the entire discussion which we are talking right now is talking about corporate governance and possible breach of insider trading regulation. I think that's really not the issue. And whether it was unpublished price sensitive information or not, we don't know that. Maybe there was nothing which was price sensitive. The key question here is not that. The key question here is that, and I think all of us know that there are agreements called shareholder agreement. We don't have directors agreement, right? So therefore, shareholders would drive companies. That is an accepted practice. So shareholders know how to do the business. Whenever people come to India, they enter into with a group and enter into a shareholder agreement. So Tata Sons was a shareholder. Then it had a right to nominate directors. But it was a shareholder. They had a right to nominate directors. Those directors had fiduciary duties. That's a different issue. Now, what you've just told is that basically Cyrus Mistry was using corporate governance issues, insider trading issues, and say, hey, we don't care about shareholder, we don't care about information to shareholder, whether it is price sensitive or not, whether it's a routine matter, this company has to be run by directors not by shareholder. And in my view, really, this is a different, and that is what he was trying to do. And I can now read what Tata Sons has said, that he was not following the group ethos. And there is a requirement. I think we all understand that shareholders drive company, and they have directors like you would have. Then you will have a director who will have a fiduciary duty, and that's really the mix. What he was trying to do was basically make shareholders. Really, he was himself a nominee of Tata Sons. After being nominated as a director and as a chairperson, he wanted to make sure that the nominating entity is become useless, and he runs the company. So what he was trying to do was, he was trying to get control of the company and tell Tata Sons that you have no say. And I think, in my view, unfortunately, all of us in this on this call is discussing about corporate governance, insider trading, and saying, hey, Tata Sons was running it very poorly, we don't expect that. That is really not the issue. The issue is an 18% shareholder who, by virtue of not his own shareholding, but by virtue of Tata Sons holding 66% shareholder, he got nominated as their nominee, and he was making sure that now he would run as an alter ego of 18% shareholder, not as a Tata Sons. And that was the issue. This was not an insider issue. It was not a corporate governance issue.
Hold your thoughts there.
It was really an abuse of majority by minority. That was the issue. And I think now I can really relate.
That's a contrarian view, and all kinds of contrarian view are always welcome in a debate, Mohit. But hold your thoughts there, because I want to take this across to Mr. Luna. And Mr. Luna, do you agree with Mohit Saraf? Because he seems to be suggesting here that Cyrus Mistry was actually trying to seize control from the authority that nominated him, was acting like a, what did he say, alter ego of 18.5% stake that his family owned. And this isn't really a big corporate governance or an insider trading norm. Whereas remember, there is sensitive information that was outside of the preview of the board of these group entities. It was with shareholders, but it wasn't. It was outside the preview of the boards. Mr. Luna?
No, I don't think, in my view, Mr. Cyrus Mistry, when he was chairman or director of any other company, he was, of course, a nominee of Tata Sons. But at the same time, he was acting as a director chairman, and he was having that information in that capacity, and he was supposed to keep that information with him in that capacity. He is not supposed to pass on that information to the holding company in the board meeting. So long as he retains this information with him, nobody can find any fault with that. But the issue is coming that the information which was, let us say, with Tata Power, it is coming to Tata Sons, and before that, unpublished price sensitive information is made public to the stock exchanges. That issue is being discussed by another company. Now the whole issue, the corporate governance is also very much there. There is issue of the insider trading regulations. If, I mean, this proposal like the structuring of well-spun deal is certainly a price sensitive information. So if something like that is being discussed, and one will have to consider that this is the insider information, price sensitive information, which is coming to the board, and so both the companies, the one which has passed on this information, the Mr. Cyrus Mistry also may be probably responsible for passing on this information, and at the same time the Tata Sons for receiving that information, because none of them is authorized to either pass on or receive that information. So I think it is not merely that Mr. Cyrus Mistry was acting as a nominee and he was entitled to that information. That is enough, is fine that he was entitled to that information, but he was not entitled to further pass on this information to the Tata Sons board.
Sandeep Parekh, I want you to come in on that because what the information that we're putting out is really the big story behind that ouster. What was really planned to be done on the 24th of October and what ended up happening. And Mr. Luna has a point there, just to be the devil's advocate right now, that Cyrus Mistry himself puts himself in the dock when he says that this information was being shared with Tata Sons, with Tata Trusts, with people outside of the boards of listed entities. Is Cyrus Mistry to be equally blamed, or do you believe he was just following tradition, something that was done in the Tata Group where information was freely exchanged between the entire institution and not restricted to group companies alone?
No, so I absolutely, I think I agree with Mr. Luna. I think it's a very 1980s way of thinking that this is all Tata Group and therefore they can share information with each other. And I think the current position, of course, the concept of a company being independent of its shareholder has been recognized for more than 200 years. You know, the famous case of Solomon versus Solomon, even if a person owns 100% of a company, it's completely independent. Now, current SEBI law is very clearly articulated. We've had a committee which resulted in the regulation. We've had an enforcement action as late as October of 2016 on this issue. So the position is extremely clear that you cannot share privileged information with specific shareholders. Even if you are a 100% shareholder in a company, there's no automatic right of the shareholder. In a listed company, the public interest comes in, insider trading regulations come in. I think the position is extremely clear. There's no doubt that insider trading laws are relevant in this inquiry. And I think so is corporate governance issues, because I don't think information can be shared as easily as it used to be well before these new norms came in. So I think we're looking at these issues certainly, whether as a matter of fact, whether price sensitive information was there in those conversations, that we can of course guess only, but we can presume that if it's a $1 billion plus acquisition, it would certainly be price sensitive if it's not already in public domain. So I think we are looking at pretty serious issues in terms of what can be shared, what cannot be shared, and a modern understanding of how business ought to be run. And I think I don't agree that it's some wresting of control. I mean, if enforcing the law amounts to wresting of control, well, so be it. But I think the law is very clear, and I think companies are only now appreciating.
Yes,
the
Sandeep,
modern
I get your point. Coming to Mohit, I mean, if I look specifically at the Welspun deal, the 10,000 crore Tata Power Welspun deal, I mean, what I am given to understand is that Cyrus Mistry informed the board about the impending transaction. Now, after the same was communicated to the board members, he asks them that if there is any sort of a discomfort, you can approach me. Apparently, there's been no response for the next 10 days. Suddenly, there's one board member who comes back to Cyrus, and in a matter of days, Mr. Soonawala, who represents the Tata Trust, gets into the nitty-gritties of the transaction. He even starts looking at the way the deal can be structured. As a member of Tata Trusts, which obviously is the largest shareholder of Tata Sons, which again is the promoter shareholder for Tata Power, does Soonawala have any business to get into the structuring of a Tata Power deal?
I think the question here is the minute you say given to understand, who's making you to understand? Really, this is a one minority shareholder who got nominated as a chairman by a majority shareholder and who's trying to control, and he's trying to tell everybody that he was trying to protect the law of the country and he was not allowed and he was asked to go. Really, at the end of the day, I don't understand all these issues. The issue is, how can a chairman say that if you have a problem, you come to me? This company should have been board run. So therefore, the board should have deliberated. What type of governance is this? That if you have a problem, please come to me. I don't understand these issues. I clearly understand is one thing is that we are all presuming that price sensitive information, you always do structuring of transaction. Lawyers and accountants get involved. Everybody gets an out on a need to know basis. Really, I don't know what level of information. This has all been leaked out selectively by Cyrus Mistry, and I can clearly see that this was a plot to control. And now he's trying to show Tata was running the company in the most bad, was not following the insider trading regulation, was not following the corporate governance issues, and he was trying to protect the law, and he did not. He breached the law for last 4 years. And he should be responsible for that. After 4 years, he suddenly woke up and said, hey, this law is to be breached, and therefore he was asked to give. So I would say really these are fundamental issues way beyond what we are talking about. And it is clearly, I think we are all believing that price-sensitive information was being, and we all understand that the law has been amended and we cannot disclose. But I think the shareholders to some extent have to be consulted, not on the price-sensitive, other things. And the law is definitely excessive right now. But again, so be it. If we have a law, we need to follow the law. But I think just because one group to the fight has selectively leaking information and making it an insider trading issue and all these issues, I would say it's, in my view, this is really a whole issue of a minority trying to take control of the majority willing.
Mohit, I must come in there and just to clear to our viewers and to clear to each one of you here, we've got no selective briefings from either of the two sides. This is information that we've collected. We've gone through the minutes of the meetings, and the minutes record that Nitin Noria and Vijay Singh did say that after discussing the proposal, and I'm essentially referring to the well-spun deal, after discussing the proposal with Tata and Soonawala, what business does Soonawala have to discuss the proposal? He wasn't even on the board.
I tell you one thing, I can understand this particular question that, okay, if he was not on the board, he does not have a right to discuss, and I can totally understand and appreciate that issue. But I think, in my view, the larger picture is not Soonawala. The larger picture is one person who's been nominated by majority shareholder, and he's now telling the majority shareholder that now once you have nominated it, I will run the company and I will not talk to you, I will not disclose anything, I will only inform you because that's my legal right and I'm following the highest level of corporate governance. That is the issue. I don't understand all these issues.
Right. Just hold your thoughts there. I'm completely running out of time here, and at the cost of going a little over on this show, I must get a closing comment from both Mr. Luna and Sandeep Parekh there. Mr. Luna, if I may ask you, the information that we at ET Now have put out is absolutely impeccable. This is information that we've collected. This particular code of conduct was supposed to go to the board. But do you believe at this stage, when there is such mudslinging, when there's such washing of dirty linen in public on both sides, this kind of a code of conduct perhaps needs to be the norm at Tata Group, because it does bring to fore that things are not happening according to the law, both in writing and in spirit?
I fully agree. I think it was not in compliance with the law. If Mr. Cyrus Mistry was a nominee of the Tata Sons there, if he has that information, he could keep it with him, and so far as this Tata Sons is concerned, when they are dealing with this any kind of price sensitive information, that is a serious issue, as under the company law, being a holding company, Tata Sons may be entitled to the proceedings of the meeting of the other company, and that is the usual practice, that the minutes of the meetings of the subsidiary company, etc., they are placed before the holding company, so that the holding company knows that what is going on in the subsidiary companies or the group companies. But at the same time, it does not authorize that what kind of price sensitive information or the actions are going to be taken by the listed entity. They should be discussed in advance with the holding company by the nominee at the board level itself. I think that is a clear violation. Nobody else other than the people concerned in the company, they are entitled to that information on need-based basis. And so any kind of passing on the information by any nominee director to the holding company prior to this information is made public to the stock exchanges will not be accepted. The law only requires that the holding company is entitled to the proceedings of the board meeting of the subsidiary companies, and that is how the minutes of the board meeting, the minutes of the committees, they are put up to the holding company, so that they are kept in loop that what is happening in the subsidiary company.
Fair point indeed. Sandeep Parekh, we'll let you have the last word on this. It's time Tata Group put some of that code of conduct, which did not really see the light of day on the 24th of October in practice, like Mr. Luna has been pointing out. There have been gross violations of law, both in writing and in spirit, but it's time they make amends.
Yes, I think Mr. Luna's articulated it quite well. I just want to add that I think the whole concept of directors, I think again going back 20, 30 years, I mean the whole concept of directors was very fluid. And you had nominee directors of lenders, you had independent directors which came in later, you had executive, non-executive. So we have a whole range of types of directors. But the law is very clear. There are no different standards for different types of directors. Whether you're a lender's nominee director, whether you're an executive, non-executive, independent, non-independent, everybody has a single role, which is a fiduciary duty to the company. Once you enter that boardroom, your duties to your nominee, to the lender, to the person who appointed you, everything has to end. And that is kind of a very clear position which has developed over the last few years. And insider trading norms have made it even more watertight. So I think the position is very clear that once you're a director, no matter who's appointed you, your not only your duties to the companies have to be single-minded and single-focused, but also the kind of information you can share with your nominating institution have to be completely not shared at all. So I think that position is very clear, and I wish more Indian corporates followed that. If Tatas don't follow it, there's not too much of hope for the rest of corporate India to follow these norms, which I think well understood, at least amongst corporate governance experts.
In a lighter vein, you've said something very, very important. If Tatas do not, then there's very little hope out there for the rest of corporate India that will. But on that note, we really want to thank Mr. R.S. Luna, Mr. Mohit Saraf and Mr. Sandeep Parekh for joining us right here on ET Now on that big breaking news, and Abhinav Das for putting it all in perspective and getting us that big, untold story about the ouster. We at ET Now will continue to get you every angle of that big, bitter battle at Bombay House and keep you informed and on top of every twist and turn. Thanks very much for being with us.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.